We come to our GPC servers training class of July 9th, 1953, 11:30. We've been meditating on the basic theme of heavenly magic, the magic of living, and we can feel the pattern of that magic beginning to work in and through you. You've begun to have a true realization of the reality of Shekinah. And as the Shekinah cloud of glory is allowed to penetrate into the pneumoplasmic substance of your body, in that sphere you begin to be one. One with that which is of the inner reality of being. Allowing this to take place, you are in position to let the light that glows begin to have meaning in your mind. Not merely an intellectual process, as we ordinarily think of it, but a process of illumination. And with illumination, with the correct acceptance of the truth by the mind, and the illuminating process in the current of resurrection, the fire that burns begins to be a constant and continued reality in your heart. It begins to be the manifestation of the fire that never goes out. It is a constant flame. Those who live and move and have their being in God have this constant flame upon the altar in the heart, in the temple of the body. You're beginning to realize that your body individually is a temple, and that all of us collectively have a part to play in the formation of the larger temple, the temple not made with hands. Your body was not made with hands. Likewise, the larger temple of many members is not made with hands. Yesterday, in our patterns of meditation together, we gave some attention to the secrets of sex as they relate to the Shekinah pattern of being and our reality, our relationship in reality with God. Today, continuing in this cycle that has been open to you, I would like to draw your attention to the record as taken from the 4th chapter of the Book of Magic, and we'll begin with the first verse. Perhaps we'll go back just a little to get connected up. We gave meditation to the message to Laodicea. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. That is Shekinah. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. In our meditations here, we recognize that we can use patterns of response and patterns of opposition, but lukewarmness is something which we cannot use. It is something which we must ignore or work around. Only where there is response in the sense of yielding or response in the sense of opposition can we utilize the factors present. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked, I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, the Shekinah fire, that thou mayest be rich. And can we hope to find any true riches in being if we ignore this fire? The gold tried in the fire. Gold is the symbol of what? Love. Love tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich. The riches of heaven on earth at hand. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed. And what is the clothing? The light that glows, that relates to the reality of illumination and the function of the mind. And that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. What is it that clears away the shame of nakedness? The white raiment, the light that glows. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Now here, in this particular pattern, we have the emphasis placed upon seeing. Anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Now the clothing, the light that glows, and the cloud of glory are so closely interrelated here in the pattern of symbolism that we see them really together in their oneness. The outer manifestation of the white raiment is, of course, the cloud of glory, but the cloud of glory has meaning and provides the raiment, the white raiment, because of the light that glows. And when we have our eyes anointed with eye salve that we may see, we begin to see the cloud of glory by reason of the light that glows. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Did you ever notice how I love you? As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. With my Father, not only the one who dwells, but the Shekinah pattern of reality. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet, talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. Have you ever felt known the experience of hearing the voice inviting you, "Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter." And immediately I was in the Spirit. There is one of the great significant keys. We noticed it briefly earlier in this book of magic, where we find the statement, "And I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned I saw." And here we have the word, the invitation, "Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter," things which must take form, things which are to appear on earth. And immediately I was in the Spirit. When you begin to hear the voice that speaks with you, what are you in? Are you simply a human being in the flesh? Or are you just in your mind trying to intellectually comprehend that which the voice is speaking? Or are you in some place far away, some place of the past, or some place somewhere else on the globe? Are we all together, individually, with one accord in one place? Body, mind, heart, and spirit, in alignment in one place. And where is the centering of you? In the flesh? In the mind? In the heart? Let it be in the Spirit. For when you begin to hear the voice, you should immediately be in the Spirit. And, behold, a throne was set in heaven. And where is heaven? In some far-off sky? It is at hand, here, now. And behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow around about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold, crowns of God's love. And they had on their heads the crowns of God's love. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. We've been introduced to these 7 spirits before. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts, full of eyes before and behind. 4 beasts full of eyes. Now I wonder what vision that conjures up in your mind, in your imagination. Don't be too quick to picture these beasts that are full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast was like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. Here we see the 4 primary focalizations in the pattern of the relatedness of heaven and earth. 4 of the 7. The 4 of the firm foundation of reality and being. The 4 which correlate with the four forces. And the first beast, the high point of focalization, was like a lion. We recognize there the focalization of the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And the second beast, like a calf. And the calf is what? A young bullock. And the ox or the bullock symbolizes the mind, the self-active, lumbering mind of man. But the calf symbolizes the childlike mind that is supposed to manifest in those who are responding. The mind that is willing to learn, willing to be led along the way. And so, the calf aspect here, the calf beast, symbolizes the second focalization, working from within outward, the mental level, or the Lord of what? The Lord of life. What did we learn about the reality of the three primary aspects of spirit? That life is the child of love and truth. There must be the union of love and truth in order for life to be born. And the reality of life takes on meaning in relationship to the mind or intelligence. And so at the point of the calf, we have the mental level and the manifestation of the Lord of life. Just as at the focalization of the beast like a lion, we have the presence of the Lord of love in the focalization of the reality of love. And then the third one mentioned is the first, speaking from the level of human beings looking upward. And this first, who is the third in the pattern, had a face as a man, a beast with a face as a man. Now, how many beasts are there in the world with a face as a man? Quite a few, I would say. Immediately we see that it relates to the human pattern of being, the formation of the one body of mankind in the divine design. The face is a man. The one body, the Christ body, the body of mankind. However we may put it, you are supposed to be a part of this beast with a face as a man. You're called to be a means by which this beast may take form on earth. And the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. Now we go back to our inner Trinity pattern, and we find here the third point from the outward moving inward, and this is the position of the Lord of truth. The union of love and truth allows the birth of life, and love and truth and life must manifest in the body of the man, or the form that has the face as a man. Here then we begin to see the nature, the symbolism, the flying eagle. Is it by chance that the eagle is used as one of the symbols of the United States of America? It is not by chance. But here we have the flying eagle, and that is the symbol of the Lord of truth. When we begin to be acquainted with the reality of truth, what do we find? There is the ability to move in the air of the Spirit, the flying eagle. Not something that is earthbound, not something that is limited to one little point here or there. And what is the nature of the eagle? The eagle is called the king of birds. The eagle carries a very positive pattern. Did you ever see an eagle? Did you ever look at one, even one in a cage? It's a pitiful sight to see an eagle in a cage. But the nature of an eagle, perhaps you've seen pictures. The bearing of an eagle, what it suggests in relationship to the positive expression of being. And so here we have the 4 points of the creative field, recognizing the blending of 2 creative fields to make one. The points of the eagle and the points of the calf function both from an inner and an outer standpoint. The point of the lion functions from an inner standpoint, and we have the inner creative triangle, and then extending outward in the square, the city 4 square, the creative field 4 square, in relationship to the 4 forces. We have the 4th point, which is the 1st or the 3rd, depending upon the patterns of relatedness, which has the face as a man. The formation of the body of mankind as the Christ body, or the body of God on earth. And you are called to be a part of that body. Now these bodies were spoken of, or are spoken of here, as being full of eyes. It'll be easier for you to see this in relationship to the body that has the face as a man. For this body has many members. You are to be one of those members. Many members, and each one has 2 physical eyes, to say nothing of the eye of the heart, the eye of the mind, the ability to see, to perceive, and to recognize. And so the body that has the face as a man is certainly full of eyes, before and behind, and all the way through. Now let us note something of the peculiar nature of these 4 beasts. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him. 6 wings. Now, like a flying eagle, but an eagle, in the ordinary sense, has 2 wings. But the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings. That would make 24 wings, wouldn't it? 6 wings about him. And they were full of eyes within. Now first, the 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. Here we note they were full of eyes within. And they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, and cast their crowns of gold, of love, before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, for thy pleasure they are and were created. And for thy pleasure they are and were created. How much pleasure has man given to God in recent millennia? Not much. But these things on earth are supposed to give God pleasure. Now, can we imagine God having pleasure without sharing pleasure? I can't. I can't imagine God having pleasure without sharing pleasure and giving pleasure. And for thy pleasure they are and were created. Now that includes you. You were created for God's pleasure. If you so function that you give pleasure to God, do you think you will have pleasure? Do you think you will receive pleasure? And to what extent will this pleasure be limited? Just for a few minutes of meditation? For this little experience or that? Or will we begin to share God's pleasure all the time? We remember that just before the betrayal and the mockery of the trial, all the things to which our Master was subjected on earth, he gave a great prayer, a prayer that you might well meditate upon. How many times? 10 times? 100 times? Would that reveal all of its significance to you? It might pay to do it the 101st time, or even more. But in any case, there he emphasized the reality of oneness. He mentioned his joy. He mentioned extending his joy to others. His joy by reason of oneness, by reason of union with the Father. The inner and the outer, one. And the inner and the outer, together one, with a higher pattern of focalization. And he said that he was going to leave his joy with us, give it to us. In another place he said, Fear not, little flock, little flock. It doesn't have to be a big one to begin with. Even a little flock like this. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom made manifest on earth in body and mind and heart. Wherever we turn, the patterns of oneness, the patterns of union, the reality of blending, not in the limited sense which human beings ordinarily think of, not just two bodies blended, but the bodies of all, blended in the reality of God's love, blended in the pattern of love response to the King, with the crowns of gold cast before the throne. And we begin to sense something of what it means to be with one accord in one place. For there is that spirit of blending now. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And there's the Spirit of love, the voice of love. And there's the voice of truth, the Spirit of truth. And there's the voice of life, the Spirit of life, projected where? Into the body that has a face as a man. All of these things, in their aspects and in their blended form, projected into the body that has a face as a man. Again, union. Again, that blending. And what is the result? And the four beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And when those 4 beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. How much pleasure do you give to God day by day? How much pleasure do you give to God? The pleasure you give to God is the measure by which you receive the pleasure which God would give to you. Let us go back a bit now. What about these 6 wings round about? There are 6 wings. There are 4 beasts. There are therefore 24 wings. There are likewise 24 elders. A wing is that which is necessary to the bird to fly in the air, but a bird with 1 wing is rather handicapped. It takes a pair of wings. And generally speaking, those creatures which fly have 2 wings. There are creatures on earth which have 4 wings. One set to be as the wings of an airplane, fixed in the projected form, and the other set to work as a propeller to carry the creature through the air. So, the principle by which man finally built the airplane was used in the insect world long ago. Fixed or stable wings and the moving wings. But here we have the 4 beasts with 6 wings. And a wing is something to move in the air, and the air is the symbol of the Spirit. And there are 24 elders, and there are 24 wings. But the wings need to work in pairs. Now, let us note carefully. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him. Now the reader might not be alert enough to see the difference. It did not say that each beast had 6 wings, did it? It said each beast had 6 wings about him. There's the difference. I've seen people try to portray what they imagine these 4 beasts to be, and they had eyes stuck all over them, peculiar fashion, and they tried to work it out so that there would be 6 wings attached to each beast. Peculiar looking creatures. Try putting 6 wings on a lion, and try putting 6 wings on an eagle that already has 2 wings. And eyes before and behind and within. And each beast had 6 wings about him. It does not say, as some have supposed, that each beast had 6 wings. Now, where are the 4 beasts? Let's go back. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper, and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment. And they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts, full of eyes before and behind. One could very easily suspect that the 4 beasts were the throne. And there was one sitting on the throne, and we begin to see a pyramid. 4 beasts, 4 corners, and a point extending upward to an apex. A pyramid. And the pyramid touches what? The next higher focalization of deity. The next higher level. You do not need to be too concerned about that at the moment, but there we have the connection with the next higher level of deity. But here we have something we can begin to see in relationship to the oneness, in relationship to the reality of being, which we are to share, and the functions in that state of being. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. The sea of glass. Before the throne there was a sea of glass. The sea suggests that it extends out quite a ways from the throne, that it isn't limited to a spot just near the throne as such. And we have recognized that the sea of glass is the pneumoplasmic substance of the physical realm of creation. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts, full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast was like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the 4th beast was like a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him. Now there were likewise 24 elders, 24 wings. we have recognized that the 24 elders are made up of positive and negative aspects of being, forming the 12, back again to the 12 segments of humanity, the 12 in the pattern of formation, creation, the cycles of 12 in creative patterns. In other words, we have within each cycle of 12 3 cycles of 4, and we have 3-phase beings. 3-phase beings. There are 3 cycles of 4 to make 12, and the cycle of 4 relates to the 4 forces. But if there be 4 forces, there are 4 focalizations of force, 4 points of being to provide meaning, direction, control with respect to the 4 forces. And so the 4 beasts, full of eyes, before and behind and within, have about them each had about him 6 wings. There are then the pairs of wings relating to the 24 elders. The pairs of wings, each of the 24 has 1 wing. The 24 elders are round about the throne, and the throne itself has within it the formation of the 4 beasts. And there are 6 wings around each beast at each corner of the throne. And there are 4 groupings then of the 24. And the 24 would make the 12. 3 pairs of wings make 6. So at 4 points there are 6 elders making 3 pairs. Now the significance of all of that you will not grasp in a moment, but it begins to give you an understanding of some of the fundamental, basic principles relating to the expression of the divine into the world of man. But in order for this fulfillment to take place, there must be the manifestation of the 4th beast, which has the face as of a man. And this 4th beast is the one Christ body. Our Master came into the world to begin the manifestation of that body, but he couldn't remain here to be, all by himself, the reality of that body. How did he receive the power of God into the world to do the things which he did? By providing a body with a face as a man. That body, with its face as a man, was called, or is ordinarily called, Jesus. But that was supposed to be the beginning point for the formation of a body with many members. And so, this body of many members is to be the body with a face as a man, full of eyes before, behind, and within. The eye is the pattern of perception, is the reality of truth, or the spirit of truth, limited to one point of being. There is the focalization point of being, the Lord of truth, but that spirit works in all beings who yield to truth, who are honest enough to be true. And so, all beings having eyes within, what eyes do you have within? The eyes of the heart, the eye of the heart, the eye of the mind, They all become one eye, but there are aspects of these eyes, the means of perception, of seeing. And so individually, you have eyes before and eyes within. And if there's someone standing behind you in the form, there are eyes behind you too. Not that you as an individual must have a set of eyes grow in the back of your head. You're not supposed to be the whole thing all by yourself. You're supposed to be a part of the whole thing. So there are eyes before, within, and behind. And whether we consider it from the standpoint of the pattern of truth, or the pattern of love, or the pattern of life, the same is true. The patterns of perception. The patterns of perception must be of great importance, of great use. People take their eyes, their physical eyes, for granted and often abuse them. But if anyone has lost the use of the physical eye, there's a realization that while one may live a full life in many respects, something important to the physical organism is gone. The reality of the eye, to see, to perceive. When we stop to think about it, what priceless treasures we have in our eyes. And we learn to see the importance of perceiving, alertness. I mentioned in the earlier class this morning something about the development of seeing, the development of alertness, of recognizing that which is to be seen. And when these four beasts give honor, and glory, and honor, and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever. Now here we begin to see the working of the pattern of response, the outmoving from the apex of the pyramid out through the base and into the surrounding pattern is obvious, but there is the one at the apex, there are the four at the base of the throne or of the pyramid, and when the four beasts are giving response to the apex of deity immediately present in the creative field, then the 24 elders follow suit, and those who are attuned to the 24 elders follow them. And there is the cycle of response to the apex of the creative triangle, for if there is a creative field at the base of the triangle made up of two triangles, we also have the four triangles forming the faces, the four faces of the pyramid. So the pyramid has 6 triangles. Doesn't every pyramid have 6 triangles? 2 in the base, 4 on the sides. Let me use a little illustration here. We look at the base first. That's looking down upon it. So we have 2 triangles. The focalization in the inner vibration, the focalization in the outer vibration. The lion and the face of the man, the calf, and the eagle. So, here we have, looking down upon it, the base. The 2 triangles in the base, making the city four square, the place of abiding. A city is a dwelling place, isn't it? A dwelling place. So the city is the abiding place for the working of the things of God. Man has thought about the city four square, the New Jerusalem that's to come down from God out of heaven, simply as some golden streets and some houses and a place where they're going to go and live after they're dead. But what is a city? It's an abiding place. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And the Almighty is at the apex of the pyramid. Always. Depending wherever we are in the levels of being, the apex of the pyramid is, for that which relates to the pyramid, the Almighty. Why is the capstone gone at the Great Pyramid of Giza? Because the capstone is invisible, symbolizing something for us. The invisible capstone, always the focalization point of a pyramid, is for that which is focalized, the Almighty. And so, that which is contained within the city four square, in the creative fields involved, in the inner sense and the outer sense, is dwelling in the secret place of the Most High and abiding under the shadow, the evidence of the presence of the Almighty. The pyramid has its four faces in the surrounding sense, and the two triangles in the base, making six. And we have in this pattern then the reality of the inner, the reality of the outer, the patterns of their manifestation, and their focalization in that which is higher, and this provides the focalization for that which is lower. For if we saw this from the lower level, instead of seeing the apex up here, we would see a similar pyramid projected downward into the lower levels of being. And then there would be 12 creative triangles in the double pyramid. Two pyramids having the same base, one pointing upward, one pointing downward. Now, instead of just looking at the base of the triangle, you're looking at one side of the double pyramid. This is the apex of the pyramid, this is the base of the pyramid, and this is the pyramid pointing downward, because you can only see it from one side at a time. There's a great deal in that little city four square that you may not have explored yet. And where are the golden streets? The streets of love in the city four square. You think they're going to be streets paved with gold? Paved with love. The streets of love in the city. And are there streets of love in that city? If it manifests, you'll find there are. And you have to walk the golden path. The golden path of what? When I talk about the golden path that leads to the tree of life, what do I mean? The path of love that leads to the tree of life. And what happens to the tree of life? It brings forth 12 manner of fruit, each in its season. One fruit each month. 12 months, back to the 12. There are many 12s. You haven't found them all yet. But the 12 segments of humanity. Now we begin to see that there are the 24 elders, or the 12, and the 12 provides us with the focalization of the 12 segments of humanity. And 12 has 3 cycles of 4, 4 relating to the square, the 4 forces, or the 4 that are called beasts, points of focalization, and that manifests in relationship to each of the three levels of the Trinity of being. All of these things being interrelated. You cannot segregate some part and say, this I'll take away and I'll have something. It's an integral thing. It must be an integrated thing to have meaning. All of its parts. We cannot separate the Lord of love from the rest and have true meaning, or the Lord of truth, or the Lord of life, or man the manifestation of love and truth and life. The first manifestation is life at the birth of the body. But then we begin to have the evidence of the spirit of love, and as the pattern of intelligence develops, there's likewise the beginning of the integrity of truth. And the patterns and designs and control factors begin to manifest. And the babe becomes a child becomes a youth, the youth becomes a man. The growth, the development, the unfolding of the things of the invisible realm into the visible. The revelation of deity through you. The oneness of heaven and earth. The pleasure of that union. The reality of the divine design. The interchange of all the forces of being. Oneness. Not something separate and apart, but something that is a part of the whole. And we have to have the whole to have wholeness. Would you be whole all by yourself? Then you would be the allness and supersede God. You cannot be whole by yourself. I cannot. The Lord of love himself cannot be whole all by himself. In order to have wholeness, we must have relatedness to the whole. And the whole is the cosmic all that is. So the patterns of blending, the working of the law, the secrets of union, up and down and round about. When we remember that all things on earth were made for the pleasure of God, we do not imagine that he is trying to have pleasure by taking pleasure away from us. God is wise enough to know that if he is to have pleasure in us, he must give us pleasure. And that's a secret that some people on earth haven't yet learned. The secrets of oneness. That we may live and move and have our being in the body of God.